It's eggnog time.
What'd you say?
It's eggnog time.
Wait, why is it eggnog time?
Because it's the holidays. You drink eggnog when you're off. What do you mean?
Eggnog stinks.
No.
Do you like eggnog?
No. Eggnog is phenomenal.
It's horrendous.
Expand your mind.
It's snot. It's cartoned snot.
I didn't have it for many years of my life.
Shout out to your family for protecting you.
I think it was like 2 Christmases ago. My dad just put a glass in front of my face and was like, a little eggnog with a little rum.
Oh, I was going to say, was it spiked?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what the hell? You think I just openly drink eggnog like a glass of milk?
Dude, what do you mean? People drink eggnog. Yes.
Okay, that is satanic. No, I drink it with rum. What do you mean?
Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That's Connor Rogers joining you for another early prospect ranking episode today. We're talking about the quarterback position. We did wide receivers last week, so in case you missed it, go check it out. We know y'all got takes on wide receivers, so we would love to hear it from you. And today we're doing quarterback. So as if you didn't have enough takes on wide receivers. We know you got takes on quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
We know you got takes on quarterbacks. So I'm excited to talk about this class here with you. You know, the whole time people have sort of built it up as, well, bad quarterback class. And even though it doesn't have the studs at the top that say the 2023 NFL draft class or 2024 NFL draft class did, there are still some intriguing players, guys who I do think can be starters at the next level. Connor, I'm sure you agree with me as we'll get into it. It might not be as cut and dry, easy to project as last year's class was, but it is going to make for some interesting conversations. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I thought you were going to say, and they were right. But no, in all seriousness.
The haters didn't believe in this class. They thought it was trash. They think it's terrible. They're all unplayable. And honestly, congrats to the haters. You were
Congrats.
correct.
Shout out to the haters. You win this time. In all seriousness, it's a class where there's developmental guys. There are, and I mean true developmental guys, not guys that you go, I'd love him to sit for a year. Like Drake May. That was the love, the catchy line with Drake May. I'd really love Drake May to sit for a year.
Yeah, I bet your ass you would.
Yeah, I bet you freaking would. So there's developmental guys. There's a big chunk of guys that they just profile as backup quarterbacks in the NFL, which matters a lot. Like you check out what backup quarterbacks are being paid right now around the NFL. That finding one on day 3 of the draft is a financial win if you're an NFL GM. So that matters a lot. And then, of course, there's going to be the big combo with the guys at the top because that's just every quarterback class. And the combo this year is really, really interesting and polarizing. But it was really good exercise, Trevor, to dive into the tape of the guys we haven't talked about yet. A lot of them have accepted all-star invites to both Senior Bowl and Shrine. So for me, I gotta look at a couple guys for the first time that I didn't watch over summer scouting. And there was a couple of nice surprises wrinkled in here.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Even though we have a quarterback class where, like I said, it's not as easy to project them as sure thing NFL starters, there are too many teams around the NFL every single year that cycle through quarterbacks and are in situations where they'd like to get new guys in there and try something new. And the fact of the matter is that there are going to be players in this class who are going to get that shot. So whether or not we think they might be, worthy of it right off the bat is kind of, futile because these guys are going to get their shot at the NFL level because all these teams are so desperate to try to hit it at quarterback. And there are a handful of guys that at least present to you starting caliber ceiling. Now, the floor might be lower than you want it to, and maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle of where they might land. But again, it's going to make for some fun conversations. And I think my guys in this quarterback class are going to be a lot of fun, not just here on this show, but, we're going to get some of our favorite draft analysts here on this show throughout the new year as we get closer to the draft. And that's going to be the part that's going to be a lot of fun. So what we're going to do here on the show is we're going to give you our early top 10s. So we had summer scouting that we did this past summer, obviously, and we gave you our, we do top 8s? We do top 8s, top 5s for the quarterback position? Can't remember what number we did, but
I thought we did 10.
Did we do 10?
We watched a lot of quarterbacks this summer.
Man, we are sick.
We are absolutely insane.
We came back 4 weeks after the draft was over and ranked 10 quarterbacks in this class.
Yeah, that is actually deranged. You should be locked up and put in a home level.
Well, here we are again, locked up, put in the home, and we're doing the top tens once
we're
again.
We're recording
here
this on Christmas Day. We are not with our families. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't put it against us. All right, so
challenge us.
Let's do. What do you want to do you want to go 10 through 6 and then sort of dive deep into the top 5, or do you think
talk
there's
about
enough
them as a group?
Okay, all right, we can do that there. So I'll let you kick it off. I have no idea what your top 10 is. Obviously, I know somewhat of what you thought of these quarterbacks from summer scouting and how we've talked about them a little bit throughout mock draft exercises and sort of throughout the season. But in terms of expanding this bad boy all the way to a ranking of 10, I don't know where we're at here. So this podcast could be a lot of fun depending on how much we disagree. But I'll let you start. Go 10 through 6. Give me a little synopsis of each of the guys, and then we'll have a little combo about it.
So for those that are diving in and they haven't really listened to us or draft content yet, a couple of caveats if you have missed it, because Trevor and I talked through this before the pod. There's a couple of guys that are expected to transfer or go back to school, and things could always change, and that's why there will be a final quarterback ranking show from us. This isn't the last one for this draft. Right. Drew Aller from Penn State, who would be a heavy hitter in this class, he's expected to go back to school as we record today. As we sat down to record here, Trevor, the NCAA is working through a waiver right now to permit athletes who attended and competed at a non-NCAA school for 1 or more years to remain eligible for 2025 to 2026. So there are going to be some guys, that might have played at JUCO that can get a 6th year. It's a very messy environment.
They're all just going to be doctors, all right? They're all going to be doctors. They're all going to have their master's degree.
Dual degrees.
This what we're going to talk about here. An older quarterback prospect at this rate is going to be 27, and like a regular quarterback prospect is going to be 25.
It really feels like the quarterback age per class is going to go up with all of this different extra eligibility years. So, and there's a couple guys that are still working through decisions and everything. So as it stands,
but I was going to say before we get into the top 10, you brought up a really good point. So Drew Aller, we think he's going back to school. Yes, you have a couple
other key names.
Garrett Nussmeier announced that he's going back to school.
He would have been a very notable name in this class.
100%. And then you got some guys a little bit further down the list, like Jalen Daniels from Kansas going back to school. Noah Fafita is going back to school. Miller Moss going back to school. Well, transferring. Jalen Daniels is staying at Kansas. I actually don't know if Fafita is transferring or he just went back. But
I think he's going to transfer. But once again, these are very fluid.
So too. Miller Moss is transferring. So I watched Cade Klubnik from Clemson. I think he's going to go back to school.
Okay.
I really do. I think he's going to go back to school. It feels like he's going to go back to school. Dabo's sort of been talking as if he's going to go back to school. Now, obviously, Dabo's the head coach, so he's trying to, salesman his team up to keep as many good players as he can. So he certainly doesn't want Klubnik to leave. But even just after watching him, he played better this year. He could absolutely use another year. So if guys like Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier returning to school, I got to think that Cade Klubnik's probably going to return to school. Diego Pavia had an unbelievable year for Vanderbilt, and what you were just talking about, sort of that NCAA ruling or trending towards these guys who didn't play for NCAA schools because Pavia played for a JUCO before he ended up going to New Mexico State, which then he transferred over to Vanderbilt. If Pavia gets an extra year, I think that he'll be in this group. I didn't watch him for this exercise because I have no idea what's happening with that whole situation. And there's a couple of other players that we will talk about here in this class that, okay, it hasn't been decided one way or another whether they're coming back. But Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier, Miller Moss, Jalen Daniels, Noah Fafita, all of those guys we know are going back to school, so they're not going to be on our list here.
Okay, yes, that is very important to get out of the way because some people might be like, what about this guy? You talked about him over summer, or I've heard this name in college football. We try to remember here that not everybody listening is, a college football fan or a 24/7, 365 draft fan. So if you're deep in the weeds with us all the time, sorry that we got to get those caveats out of the way. Okay, drum roll. Just kidding. It's really not that crazy. 10 to 6. 10 for me is Dillon Gabriel of Oregon. He is one of those guys that's had a very long college career. I would classify him as the ultimate point guard of this draft class. And I don't mean that as disrespect. I mean that as a compliment, Dillon Gabriel, compared to his physical abilities and how he's able to maximize them. 9, And this is somebody that we're gonna find out in the coming weeks what his future holds. Kyle McCord from Syracuse, formerly of Ohio State. He is actively right now, reportedly, trying to get one of those waivers to come back and play another year for Syracuse.
What argument does he have?
I don't know. And by the way, he doesn't fall, for those listening in the beginning, he doesn't fall in that bucket of the, former JUCO. Like Kyle McCord was at Ohio State for a while and then Syracuse.
Right. So, and played football.
And played football. So we will talk about Kyle McCord on this show today. He is QB9 for me right now.
Okay.
A guy that got a lot better after transferring to Syracuse. And right now has accepted an invite to Shrine if his waiver does not get accepted to go back to school. Number 8, Tyler Shough from Louisville.
Okay. All
right. Senior Bowl accepted invite. Gonna be honest, outside of watching Ja'Cory Brooks film this year, I hadn't watched any of this guy until this exercise. And he's been around college football for a very long time. This is his third stop. Wildly impressive season compared to expectations coming into the year. I'm excited for us to talk about him. Riley Leonard at Notre Dame is 7. Somebody that I did talk a lot about on summer scouting. And ironically, I think I had Riley Leonard 7th during summer scouting as well. So while
love to see that consistency.
The names all shuffled around him, but he just kind of stayed right there.
He's the son.
Yes, he's just always there. A nice warm blanket. I wouldn't really describe his play like that. But
no, I would not either.
6, arguably the biggest mover, is Carson Beck from Georgia. And Carson Beck, came into the year for a lot of people as QB1, and he had a really tough season. Now he's hurt, which makes it even more difficult. But I'm sure we'll have one of our longest combos in this entire thing about Carson Beck. So yeah, my 10 through 6 was Dillon Gabriel, Kyle McCord, Tyler Shough, Riley Leonard, Carson Beck.
All right. Shoot. I mean, I guess we could just start at 10 with Dillon Gabriel. I have him QB4.
Wow.
I have him a lot higher. And I think that, to your point, now I will say this. I understand why you are lower on him. I was very low on Dillon Gabriel when we went through summer scouting. Yeah. The people who have used the mock draft simulator have seen Dillon Gabriel's name in the 200s of the rankings, because going into the year, I was just like, I don't want to believe in this again. We were going through, we just got through the year of, if Bryce Young can't do it at his size, then it's hard. It's just really hard for me to get invested in a player like that. But when you watch what Dillon Gabriel has been this season, it is so difficult not to want to buy in, especially in a quarterback class that is not star-studded. In last year's class, is he a top 5 quarterback? No, probably not. But I've got him QB4 in this class, and honestly was very tempted to have him QB3. I'm going to be honest.
Wow.
When I get to my QB3, eventually when we get up into the top 5, I'll sort of make the case for and against, him being there, him being at 4, and I'll talk through all that. But his film is so fun to watch. He is so accurate. He throws just such a catchable football. I mean, that spiral is tight, and it is right to the wide receiver's hands every single time. He knows how to recognize things in the pre-snap. He is fantastic at adjusting to things in the post-snap. He can go through all of his reads and progressions. He navigates the pocket very well. He's got a little bit of escapability to him. He can throw on the run because of his size, which, I mean, where is he here? He is 5'11". Now he's listed at 5'11", 204 pounds. That is Bryce Young's size. That is second percentile in height. That is 6th percentile in weight. And you don't even know, that's school listed stuff. So you don't even know if he is that tall or that big. It could be even smaller. Again, we're talking about a Bryce Young situation, but much like Bryce Young, there is just so much to love about what he does. The RPO, the play action game, all of that is fantastic for him. The confidence in which he operates in the pocket, whether there's pressure or not, is fantastic. He does not panic at all whatsoever. He can go through all of his reads. He can go through primary reads, secondary reads, third reads, fourth reads, go to the backside of plays, even when it's a front side play call. He can do all of those things very, very well. Now, some of the detractors in his game, he doesn't have that natural arm strength because he's a lot smaller. So you'll see like that leg kick from him and his follow through because he's trying to get his whole body into it. He's a lefty, which not innately bad, but it is different. Like it is different for wide receivers. Yeah. They have to adjust to it. The spin of the ball is a little bit different. Visualizing it's a little bit different. So all that goes into it, but we'd love to hear what you think of Dillon Gabriel, but I'm buying into how good this guy is. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that I was going to be here. But after watching 4 full games of him, with obviously the college football playoff game still yet to come, he plays this position so confidently between the ears, and his fundamentals are so damn clean. Somebody's going to give this dude a shot, I think. And I really do think that he would have the ability to take it and run with it in the league.
He'll definitely get drafted. There's no denying that, because there's too many productive years, and his experience has molded him into a real prospect, right? I mean, you're talking about multiple years starting at UCF, multiple years starting at Oklahoma, and now the starter at Oregon, which is an incredible program. And I don't think a cupcake offense to come in and run, and he runs it with confidence. And like you said, Trevor, he works through his progressions. He goes through multiple reads. What I love about him, he just constantly protects the football, but he's not playing scared. It's not like you're sitting there going like, oh my God, dude, throw the ball more than 4 yards down the field. But he just has almost a sixth sense of how to protect the football. Low turnover rate every year. 2024, think of the big games they played in. His turnover-worthy play percentage is 1.7. The best way I can kind of frame that for people is like just picture 100 dropbacks. That's less than 2 out of those 100 dropbacks that you feel like he's putting the ball in harm's way. And that doesn't mean it was a pick or a fumble recovery. That just means there's a chance for a turnover. So really good protecting the football. I agree with you. He doesn't have the same arm strength that you're accustomed to seeing for an NFL quarterback prospect. But why it works with him, he is extremely accurate in the intermediate, that 10 to 19-yard range at all 3 areas of the width of the field, because he has elite timing and touch. So now it can be a dangerous way to live in the NFL. And to put it in perspective, kind of think of Tua a little bit. They beat you because the ball is there on time and it's thrown accurately and it's laid in on the route perfectly, rather than some guys that drop back and that might be a second late. Oh, but I could throw the ball 75 miles an hour in there. So, but you can't Gabriel go, well, he's not going to get away with that at the NFL level, because he's done it now at a high level of college football for many, many years. The reason I have him at 10 rather than in the top 5 like you, it's just tough physically to project someone like this, in my opinion, as somebody's starting quarterback early on in his career. There's not a lot of big time throws on tape, like these crazy high level NFL kind of throws. He's not physically imposing. He's not a great runner. He's more of a crafty runner. He's a savvy runner in the red area, but I don't think he's this guy where you're opening up the playbook and going, God, we could do a lot of different reads with him where he can hold the ball and where he can kind of force a defender to respect him and kind of a force player. And he's not that kind of runner to me. So I just think with Gabriel, he is somebody that I think at the NFL level, your offense might be a little limited because of what he is physically. But if you need somebody to keep your boat above water and be a point guard and distribute to elite playmakers, I think he could do that for you. So I'm like you. I came into this year and I didn't think he was a draftable quarterback prospect. A lot of people were angry in our summer scouting because they're Oregon fans. And they're like, what about Gabriel? And I think he's played his way into being I could see him kind of going. So Jordan Travis went in the 5th round last year. Think of him. Not great physical traits, but played a really high level of football from an intelligence standpoint. But Jordan Travis had a scary injury, and he went in the 5th round. That was a way better quarterback class. So Dillon Gabriel, to me, would I be shocked if he goes to the top of the 4th round? That wouldn't shock me at all. I think he's way better than Jordan Travis personally. Like, Travis was very erratic in his throwing motion, in his footwork, like how he put extra juice on the ball.
That was really erratic to me, and I didn't really trust that going to the NFL level. Nothing to take away from Travis, who was obviously a great playmaker at Florida State and led that undefeated team. But I like Dillon Gabriel's film more than I like the Jordan Travis, but I do think that's a good reference point for you to bring up. Gabriel had the best film of any quarterback that I watched in this class. That's my take. He had the best film of any quarterback that I watched in this class. Now, does that mean that he displayed NFL arm talent every single time? No, but how he played the quarterback position, this was the best film of any of the guys that I watched. So it was hard to keep him further down my list because of how clean he played the game. And again, it's not like, I think people think of Oregon's offense and, you know, much like Bo Nix, much like I felt like I'm not saying this to like toot my own horn. I try to tell people that like Nix is not just some like Chip Kelly version of Oregon offense. Because I think when people think of Oregon, they think of Chip Kelly. Like they think of sort of this like gimmicky offense. It's not real. It's not translatable at all. That's not really where Oregon is at this point in time. Dillon Gabriel is asked to go through progressions. Yeah, like some of the throws are obviously quick throws because the offense is set up to operate efficiently. And obviously
every offense has those.
If the primary read is open, he's going to throw the damn ball. But he also displays going through progressions, reading safeties, reading linebackers, reading coverages. Like he displays the ability to do that. So I like Dillon Gabriel a good amount in this class. I think that his floor is starting caliber at the NFL level. I hate that it's an easy comparison, but this is the Bryce Young conversation to me. It really is. And I hate to like say that with every single small quarterback, but I think he is more fundamentally sound than a guy like Jordan Travis. And I think that he is closer to like what Bryce Young was. And if this guy does not play with a lot of confidence, much like we saw with Bryce Young in his rookie year, he will not make it. He does not have the physical tools to be able to overcome being late, not anticipating the way that he needs to, and not seeing the field correctly. But when he does, just like we're seeing Bryce Young play with confidence now, that's the same type of player that I can buy into as somebody who can win some football games for you at the NFL level. So yeah, I have him at 4. I figured we'd just have a more extensive conversation there with him because I had him at 4. So we
didn't talk about him on summer scouting, so this was the time to have that conversation.
Yeah. Okay, read me 9 through 6.
Kyle McCord was 9.
Okay.
Tyler Shough was 8. 7 was Riley Leonard, and 6 was Carson Beck.
So I have my 10 through 6. I have Kurtis Rourke at 10 from Indiana. I have Kyle McCord at 9. I have Quinn Ewers at 8. I have Carson Beck at 7, and then I have Riley Leonard at 6. So
definitely some similarities. Who did you have? What was so you had Kurtis Rourke,
Kyle McCord
at 10. Kyle McCord.
Yep.
We both
Quinn
had McCord
Ewers
at 9.
Yep. Quinn Ewers was 8. Carson Beck was 7. Riley Leonard was 6.
Okay. So Beck and Leonard in this bracket for us both, and McCord.
Yep. So let's do this first. Give me your thoughts on Tyler Shough, just a little bit, a little bit more into what you talked there, and then I'll talk about Kurtis Rourke. We can both talk about Kyle McCord, and then I think a lot of the other guys will probably go back and forth on. I've just got him probably a little bit outside of my top 5, and I think you probably have Ewers in your top 5.
So we could talk about Ewers because I have him at 5. And I flipped him and Beck quite a few times.
Let's save him. Let's do Shough first, and then I'll do Rourke first, and then we can move on.
So Shough, 6'4" 3/4. He's a large human and 230 pounds.
Yes,
he is like prototypical big NFL quarterback.
Yep.
Transferred from Louisville. Previous stops at both Oregon and Texas Tech. This guy has played 7 seasons of college football. 3 at Oregon,
and he's petitioning for to still have 3 more years of eligibility. Is the thing.
Thank God he is not, but yes, it does feel that way across college football right now.
I want to make this very clear on the show. I'm not hating on any of the players who are trying.
No, we hate it. We hate it. but grow up and get a job like the rest of us. Figure it out in the adult world. Once you're old enough to rent an RV. Like you have to be 25?
You rent a car at 25. Yeah, you rent a car at 25. Yeah.
Oh, not just an RV, a car.
Yeah. I don't think you can rent. Now, unless that was just like a myth, I don't think I tried to rent a car until I was 25 just because I was scared.
You want to hear a funny story about that real quickly?
Yeah.
So Hopefully it is a myth because it makes the story that much more funny. When I worked for Bleacher Report, there was a while where I used to travel a lot for college football.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, I lived in Hoboken. So I ditched my car after college when I moved to Hoboken. And I have a driver's license, people, and I drive a lot now.
Wait, what was the car? I got to know. Is this your first car? First car?
No, this was my second car, but it was the same kind of car as my first car. I wrecked my first car.
Classic. Me too.
Yeah, it happens. What are you gonna do?
Be
somebody
safe out there,
somebody hit me. I want to make this very clear. I had a Subaru Legacy, great car.
Nice.
Drive that thing for like 200,000 miles, good in bad weather.
Nice.
So when I left that and lived in Hoboken for 9 years and really never had to drive because I could take the subway and trains and ferry and everything everywhere. It was just so easy. When I traveled for work, I still didn't really feel like renting a car because it slows you down. If there's anything you need to know about me traveling, I don't want to be at the airport more than 2 seconds than I have to be. Like I had mastered this where I used to go to Newark Airport from Hoboken and I would arrive at the airport, go through clear, and I'd walk up to my gate and boarding would start. Like it was a science to me.
You and my fiance are cut from the same cloth in that regard. Meanwhile, my flight left at 9:15 this past Sunday.
You've been there for 4 days.
I got to the airport. Well, that's a different story. I got to the airport at 6:15 a.m.
Oh my God.
Because, well, all right. Defending myself a little bit. One, I wanted to get there a little bit early because of holiday, crowds. And
a little bit early. He could have beat Zelda Tears of the Kingdom while he was at the airport. God.
I also wanted to just, watch a little QB film. So I got there. I got there like 2 hours early because I wanted to find my spot, park down, and watch some QB film. So that was me. I like the airport. I think that makes me weird because when you really think about it logistically, you shouldn't want to spend more than whatever the exact amount of time that you have to spend in the airport.
Yeah.
Germs, people being weird, like
vile. Humans are vile at the airport.
It's obviously like eating at the airport's more expensive.
Yeah, it's
like
$9 for a water. It's
lack of comfort, all of that. Like you shouldn't want to be at the airport, but I don't know. Like I just love.
Yeah, you're an airport guy.
I'm an airport guy.
You and my wife are exactly the same. That's when they say opposites attract. Like this is real, folks. We have to leave early for the airport. I do live on the edge in this area, and it's a really bad habit. I got to the point where I'd pack in the morning. Like I'd have my flight in the morning. I'd be like, I'd pack when I'd pack when I wake up. It was a terrible way to live.
That is sick.
I was a real sick human.
I need to know, is there anybody out there that packs the morning that you are going to leave?
When is your packing window? I want to know that from the comments.
If it's not the night before,
seek
help.
It seems like a great idea at the time, and then you wake up and you're just, it's the worst feeling ever. So back to how we got here.
Yeah.
I hated renting a car because I hate being at the airport. And especially after the pandemic, renting a car became horrendous. So if somebody ever asked me like, hey, like, you took like 9 Ubers on this trip, why don't you just rent a car? And I'd be like, oh, I'm not 25. And I have no idea if that's a thing, but nobody ever asked me. They'd be like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So,
yeah.
All right, now I'm literally Googling.
Yeah, this is a good time to find out if this is real.
Can you rent a car if you're under 25?
It might be a state by state law.
Let's see what Google AI says. Yes, you can rent a car if you're under 25.
Yeah, but what do they know?
Yeah, you're right. What do they know?
Google
what does
AI is a work in progress. So Tyler Shough. So old enough to rent a car, and I'm not kidding. He's 25. He's 25 years old. He will turn 26 in September of his rookie season. How he got here? Broken collarbone in 2021. Yeah. Shoulder injury that ended 2022. Broken fibula in 2023. He's got like the Penix style list of injuries during a 3-year run where you're like, man, this guy just he's gone through it. The good news for him is that he got back on the field this year and he was really good for Louisville. Honestly, he was really good, especially compared to expectations. He threw for over 3,100 yards. He threw 23 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions, only 7 turnover-worthy plays. How about 20 big-time throws? That's a lot of like special kind of throws. He has a huge arm. There's a throw. So I started definitely with a cupcake game for him, but first game I watched was against Jacksonville State. That was week 2. He throws a pass, 55 yards, air yards, and it's a rope. Like this thing just travels like a Nerf ball. And I was like, okay, like physically, this guy, he has the arm that you expect when a guy is 6'5", 230. And now keep in mind, he, in my opinion, is a true pocket passer. There's a couple times where he could scramble and throw on the run because his arm is so strong. But he's not a silky, twitchy, short area quickness kind of runner. He's just he's not going to run for you. But he's got a big arm. He's got a gunslinger mindset. I think when he gets pressured, he has zero fear of throwing it up there. Like, my receiver's down there. Let's give him a play. It could hurt him at times. It could help him at times. What I do like about him, on specifically from this offense, he got some experience running play action from under center in Louisville's offense. And when you watch a lot of these guys, they don't get a lot of experience under center in these college offenses.
No,
they don't. And I thought the reps I got to watch of him under center off play action, he looked very comfortable and he's got a really strong arm. So when you get the linebackers to step up or the safety to freeze, this is somebody that can kind of drive the ball from a very dense base and throw it really fast and accurately. So Tyler Shough for me was the surprise watch of this entire draft. And I have him at QB8. I get he's going to be nitpicked through the process because he's got a long list of injuries. He's very old as a prospect, but I'm really happy he got a Senior Bowl invite because I think in that setting, people will be wildly impressed with how he throws the ball.
So I have him at 13, and I did see him pretty similarly to the way that you did. There's one thing that I think that he has to clean up. He fades away on passes way too much. And if he cleans
like the Drake
up,
May thing.
Yeah, a little bit, but man, I felt like I even saw it more with Shough than I did with Drake May. Just even clean pockets where obviously it makes sense. Like some of these guys, like Bo Nix did this a little bit too. You know, if you got a guy coming in your face and if you got a guy who's running straight for you for a sack, if you're trying to throw the ball before he gets there, you're kind of doing this, turn thing because you're trying to like protect your body, right? You want to brace for the hit, whatever. So turning and fading away and throwing off your back foot. I can understand those situations, but he did that a lot, and he did that like preemptively, like before he even needed to do it. There are some times when I'm watching him do it, and he's got a clean pocket. It's just how he's doing things. Now, going through the injuries, having a collarbone injury in particular, like I think that might go into it for him, but he can't be fading away from these passes, he gets away with it now because his arm's strong enough to do it. The NFL level, it will not be the case. Those passes will get picked off too often. I agree. So that is the one area where when we go to the Senior Bowl, I don't want to see him do that. I want to see him break that habit, be more tall in the pocket, be willing to stand up a little bit more in the pocket, especially knowing that you're really not going to take hits in practice. Let's see you step up and really fire those throws in there, and I think you could have some good reps there. So, I think it's a good explanation of kind of who Tyler Shough is, but I'm a little bit lower on him just because of that bad habit that if it does not get better, that could be a killer in my opinion.
Yep.
Kurtis Rourke is 10 for me, the Indiana quarterback. So he is also an older prospect. He is a 6th-year guy. He started for 5 years when he was he started for 4 years, but he also had a redshirt year in 2019. This was at Ohio. So he is from Canada, led his high school team to a Halton championship in 2017, which is sort of like a regional, not quite at state, but sort of like a regional championship there in high school. So he won a championship in 2017, was the runner-up in 2018. His first year when he was at Ohio, that's in 2019, he redshirted that season. They had a COVID-adjusted season, which he started all 3 games that they played in. And then he started 10 games the year after, 11 games the year after, 12 games the year after, transferred over to Indiana this year. And I thought he played really well at Indiana this past season. I thought it was his best year yet. And I mean, even I think his sophomore year when he was at Ohio, he graded out pretty well, had I think a 90.2 overall grade, a really good passing performance. The next 2 years weren't as strong. That's why he ended up transferring instead of going to the draft. But another guy, adequate NFL size, 6'4" and a fourth, 230 pounds. It's 83rd percentile and 79th percentile. So a big dude, stands very tall in the pocket, a true pocket type of a quarterback. Not a lot of mobility on this guy, but somebody who is a smooth, fundamentally sound passer. Yep. And something that I really liked about Rourke, he is not just this big quarterback with a big arm. In fact, I was actually kind of surprised at how I think his arm's a little bit more limited.
I agree with you.
I thought he'd have more juice on his passes being his size, but I think it's adequate enough for the NFL level, especially for as big as he is. But the way that he makes up for it is I think he's one of the better touch passers in the class. Mm-hmm. Yep. He's really nice at putting just the right amount of air underneath it for these wide receivers, whether it's a horizontal route, a vertical route, just dropping it in the bucket. And I was really impressed with the touch passes in his game. That leads to some excellent ball placement throws, not just accurate throws, true ball placement throws. So he's slow moving out of the pocket. You see a high sack rate because of it. He's almost at a 5% sack rate, although it is a little bit lower. I guess I got to give him a little bit of credit there for being as immobile as he is. He's still getting the ball out decently well. The back shoulder throws have good placement on them, but they take a little bit longer to get there. They're a little bit more looping. It's not those frozen rope passes. So to me, I really like a lot of the way that he played this season. I know it wasn't a great showing against Notre Dame, and that's not great, but felt like he was fighting through injury, long season for him. I love the way that he throws the ball with as much touch as he does, but it is a little bit of a illusion of a watch to see a player who is as big as he is not really be able to cannon passes in there. So the accuracy and the arm strength is adequate, but to me, it's really those touch passes that are a plus of Kurtis Rourke's game.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Rourke for me, so you had him at 10, right?
I did. Yep.
Yeah, so he would probably be at 12 for me. Because I would also have Max Brosmer probably at 11, and it was really tough to kind of dissect between the two of them.
Brosmer is also right behind Kurtis Rourke for me. He is right outside of my top 10. He's number 11. He's that next guy in there from Minnesota.
Right. I
didn't think I'd like Brosmer as much as I did.
Well, we were joking before the podcast. Brosmer is the point guard in a sense of everything Dillon Gabriel does. Mm. And he just doesn't, it's obviously not as high level of a program in terms of the national stage, but he's another transfer player that just does all of the little things the right way in commanding his offense. He's a guy that I really wish had one more year of eligibility to get a little bit more pub.
Yep. Dude he was a 0-star recruit out of high school, ended up going to New Hampshire. Played in New Hampshire, basically like sophomore year on. Well, he tore his ACL in 2021, I believe. And then like from that point on, started both 2022 and 2023, played really well, transfers over to Minnesota. And I agree with you, like super crisp footwork in his drops. He can play under center in Minnesota's offense, which you mentioned. Like not a lot of these guys have that experience, but he does. He plays fast, like his movements are fast, but don't feel out of control. Like, for example, we're going to talk about Riley Leonard. Like, Riley Leonard is one of those guys where Riley Leonard plays really fast, but you almost get nervous watching him. You're like, okay, all right, man. It's just like you just get nervous.
It's a car crash.
Brosmer, he plays quick, but it's like controlled the whole time, and it's really a joy to watch how he plays. He's a tough quarterback. He's got decent zip on his throws. Actually, in third and long situations, he's fantastic. We'll talk about this for running backs when we get here. There's some specific individual stats that I like to bring up when it comes to each position group. How you play on 3rd and 7+. I love to see those numbers for quarterbacks. Me too. Not only like grades and first down conversions, but also how often are you passing it past the sticks? Like are you somebody who's going to dump it short of the sticks and make guys, make plays for you? Or are you going to go get that first down with your arm? He had Brosmer 82.2 passing grade in 3rd and long situations. 54.5% past the sticks, which is a really nice percentage. So more than half the time, he's going to get that first down with his arms. 4 big-time throws, 3 turnover-worthy plays. I feel like he just does a lot of things really, really well. Not quite at the level that Dillon Gabriel does. The big issue for me really is his size. He is listed at 6'2". He plays like he's shorter. Like, I don't know if he's going to be 6'2". And I think those are official measurements that I've got from him. So maybe he just is, but
yeah. So the official, looks like the spring measurements that I have is 6'1.5".
Okay, so he's 6'1.5". I mean, again, like that makes sense because the biggest issue that I have about Brosmer's game is when he is throwing over his offensive line and over the true intermediate middle of the field. Because even though his grade is good over the middle of the field, 2 big time throws, 9 turnover worthy plays in between the numbers.
That's a good call.
The reason why is just because unless the offensive line sort of like parts the seas and he can see clearly over the middle of the field, if he has to throw over his offensive line, Connor, I watched specifically, like there are snaps when he is throwing on his tippy toes. Like he gets on his toes to just try to get the ball,
jump
and
pass style almost.
Not quite a jump pass.
No, not like the Tebow, but like I don't know.
Like
it's
he's
weird.
bouncing up, and you lose a lot of power and accuracy when you're throwing from.
It's hard to play that way.
Your toes, and so that's just something that you've got to live with him. But the rest of his game, very crisp, very fun to watch. Good zip on his passes, like I mentioned. Generally a good decision maker. He's one of those where I don't see it as much with Gabriel, him struggling. Again, to go back to Bryce, like Bryce Young, Bryce didn't struggle over the middle.
No.
Like you would have thought that he would have, but Bryce was a good middle of the field passer. Gabriel is a good middle of the field passer. Brosmer wasn't. So you shouted out Max Brosmer, and we hadn't talked about him yet. I've seen some comments about him, so I wanted to just talk about him a little bit there.
Just missed the top 10 for both of us. I think we should probably use this time to talk about Kyle McCord, right? Because we both have him at 9.
Yep.
I'm fascinated to see if McCord ends up getting eligibility to play next year. But considering where McCord was at the end of his run with Ohio State, compared to the film he put on this year in Syracuse's offense, it's been a wildly impressive calendar year for him. I mean, it really, really has. McCord is somebody that has always had talent, I would say, and I want to pull up my notes here right now. He's 6'2" and 5'8", 221 pounds, so pretty adequate size for the position in Kyle McCord. And you could see that on film. Like in pads, he does not look small. What surprised me the most this year, Trevor, in a year that he finished with, to put it in context, last year he had about 3,170 passing yards, 26 passing touchdowns, 6 picks. This year he had over 4,300 passing yards, 29 passing touchdowns. The interceptions jumped up to 12. But he had 28 big-time throws and 22 turnover-worthy plays. He was an aggressive, loose quarterback this year in Syracuse's offense. It wasn't this, oh, God, am I going to make a mistake? Or I'm holding the ball. Okay, Marv is down there. Let's give Marv a chance on this broken play. You watch him this year, I just saw better timing. I saw him hit a lot of hole shots between corners and safeties. I thought the deep ball, I mean, he completed over 50% of his deep balls. He was 37 of 72%. 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. The deep ball was accurate. It was thrown with touch. It was thrown with timing this year. Where I watched a lot of this guy at Ohio State, naturally. And I thought the deep ball was late. It was short. It was, unsure of himself when he was throwing it. And what I really saw with McCord this year that got him going, when they ran play action, he was phenomenal when they ran play action. You just look at the numbers that how they went up. He was 8.8 yards per attempt off play action, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks. There's a small sample of under center throws off play action, but when they had him go under center and run play action, once again, good play fakes, confident and trustworthy of his mechanics. Knew how to drive the ball all the way from his base, and his feet were tied with his eyes of where he was trying to throw the ball. Now, where McCord gets in trouble, turn on the Pitt game, right, from this season, and he just sits on that first read too long sometimes, where he drops back, and he's like, this is where it's drawn up, this is where I'm throwing, and the Pitt defenders, because he had 4 turnover-worthy plays in that game, the Pitt defenders, first it was the corners in coverage that were sitting on it and getting close to the ball. Then the safety started to pick up on it. When he would drop and stare down a throw, they'd be like, I'm going to go for this because there's a good chance he was throwing it. So he's got to be really, really careful of how he uses his eyes. And he's not a guy that's going to offer you much as a runner or a scrambler. He's not overly creative. But the arm talent, to me, took a jump this year. The timing, most importantly, took a jump for me this year. I know we were clowning on it, but in a way, extra eligibility would be really, really good for him because the jumps he made since he got to this program are drastic. I didn't expect him to be a drafted player over summer from what I saw last year. And what he put on tape for Syracuse this year, I think McCord, he's going off the board in day 3 if he's in this draft.
He wants to be Baker Mayfield.
That's a really good way of putting it.
And the reason why I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to be my official comp for McCord because I don't think he has quite the arm talent that Baker Mayfield does.
No, Baker had a pretty special arm for his body type.
And his size. And I don't think McCord is there, but McCord wants to be that. I think it's probably closer that he's Brock Purdy, right? Where it's like, okay, Purdy doesn't have the greatest arm, but Purdy also doesn't let maybe that lack of arm strength get in the way of some big time throws and being a big game hunter. So it's to me, like McCord is somewhere around like that Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield sort of mentality, but who he wants to be is Baker. Like that, it feels like he just watched Baker Mayfield tape this summer. And I think it's a really good call out by you because I'm going to be honest. I just felt like he was nervous last year at Ohio State. I feel like he just
totally different body language this year.
He didn't want to blow it. Like he didn't feel like he knew that Ohio State, like at Ohio State, it's kind of weird being an Ohio State quarterback. And I'm not trying to take some like subtle shot at Ohio State. There's not many teams in the Big Ten that can compete with Ohio State. They're like, unless Michigan is good, there's not really any. I mean, they're going to beat Penn State basically every year. And outside of that, there's just not a lot of games there. So basically, your season, if you're Ohio State, comes down to 2 games. It comes down to Penn State and Michigan. The whole rest of the schedule, all other, 10 games, 11 games, whatever it is, you're just like, don't blow it. Ohio State is supposed to win this game by a lot. And I felt like Kyle McCord at times last year, not all the time, but was sort of operating under this like, I better not blow it. Like, and it felt like he was playing tight. It felt like he wasn't playing loose. And at Syracuse, it feels like he is completely loose. He is totally confident, and he is just letting it fly. Led the Power 4 in big-time throws. Also led the Power 4 in turnover-worthy plays. But that kind of comes with the progression of how he is wanting to play and how different it is this year versus last year. In a quarterback class that, like I said, he's going to have a lot of backup quarterbacks in it, right? We're just going to have a lot of depth quarterbacks like Tyler Shough, Kurtis Rourke, Max Brosmer,
right?
Like some of these other dudes. Like, in my opinion, like they're going to be backup quarterbacks. These are backup quarterbacks at the NFL level. Perhaps some of them get an opportunity; they absolutely sprint with it. But I think they're going to be backup quarterbacks. Kyle McCord is one that's hard for me to quit because McCord at least approaches the game the way that you would want him to be a surprise out of nowhere starter. Again, that's where the Brock Purdy comes in for me. Because Purdy, I didn't think had the tools to be a starter at the NFL level. But he approached it in a way where he was like, nope, I'm going to throw the ball the way that I need to throw the ball for us to win football games. And perhaps that is also going to be Kyle McCord. So reckless in ways, for sure, but I can understand people going, hey, you know what, in this class, give me McCord early day 3. Like, give me McCord.
A higher degree of variance.
And I'll bet on McCord. High ceiling, low floor, but let me see if I can hit that high ceiling with him given the rest of the guys in the class. So I did like McCord, though. I do love the shout out there.
2 numbers that kind of back up one good thing I said about him and one bad thing. The good thing was that I thought he got the ball out quicker this year. His time to throw from his last year at Ohio State, which was 2.56, went down to 2.39 this year. That's
fast.
That's a
2.39 is fast.
That is very fast. Number 2, that is a wild jump. Like some people are like, 2.56 seconds, 2.39 seconds. In quarterback times, that's an eternity. So that's the good. The second thing is when I talked about staring down reads, he had 11 passes batted down at the line of scrimmage this season. And guys bat down passes when they see the quarterback sitting on a read and throwing it, and they go, hand up. So, McCord is, like you outlined perfectly, a high degree of variance, and there will be a team that really, really likes that with him.
Last thing about McCord before we move on to our next guy, just to tell you guys my bottom line little sentences that I have for him, which will be in the mock draft simulator soon, which you guys will be able to read this for a lot of the guys that I'm building out here. McCord is not for the faint of heart. He led the Power 5 in both big-time throws and turnover-worthy plays. He lacks the top-level arm to feel great about his gunslinger mentality in the pros, but him churning out big plays every week makes him hard to quit, and a guy plenty of teams should want to take a chance on in the early day 3 parts of the draft. So here you go. That's my thoughts on him.
Yeah, I like it. Funny we both landed on QB9 with him. A guy that I think will have the most polarizing degree of opinions. Some people will think Kyle McCord is the 4th best quarterback in this class. Some people will think he's the 16th. And we both landed at 9.
You know what? We should do a podcast together. I don't know how you feel about it.
It's not a bad idea. It might work. We'll see if anyone listens.
Probably not. Okay. So I have Quinn Ewers at 8. I have Carson Beck at 7. And then I got Riley Leonard at 6. I don't care who we talk about there.
Well, it's just funny because I have Leonard, Beck, and Ewers in a row. 7 to 5.
Same
so there's just a row of these guys. And I'm man enough to say it. I don't feel good about any of these guys right now, honestly. And it's just and I treat them differently because I think I had higher degree of expectations for all 3 than the other guys on this list that we talked about so far. They all ran into various degree of flaws this year, while still giving you enough of they are an NFL prospect that has promising aspects of their game. I guess we'll start with Quinn because I think Quinn, well, you could say they were all once upon a time first round guys. Let's just start with Quinn because he's still the most, I feel like the casual fan still thinks Quinn Ewers might be a top 40 pick in the draft. And I am just nowhere close to that right now.
No, I'm not either. Now, I will say this. The Clemson game is my favorite Quinn Ewers game that I have ever watched him play. The one that he just played.
Right, yeah.
I think that is my favorite Quinn Ewers game that I have watched him play. He had a couple of really nice, kills at the line of scrimmage to change the play to something else that ended up being successful. I thought he did a nice job not putting the ball in harm's way. I thought he did a nice job reading the field the way that he needed to. I thought he was a lot more poised. I think he managed the pocket a little bit better against Clemson. So it will be very interesting to see who do they play now? Who does Texas play? They play Arizona State.
He could have another big day. They have some talent in that secondary.
So we'll see. It's less about the opponent, though, I'm going to be honest with you, because he actually played decently well against Georgia in the SEC championship game, too.
Yep.
So it's less about who he is playing anymore for me, and it is more just stack good games in a row. I don't care really who you are playing at this point. Just give me some consistency, because that is the biggest issue that I have with Quinn Ewers.
Right.
So much inconsistency with him throughout his college football career, and even this year. There was just a ton of inconsistencies. He was leaving so much meat on the bone, and I try not to be too harsh on him and view him through a lens of okay, people think that this is a top 10 caliber pick or something like that. I'm trying to take him just as he is, and I do think that as I have done that, taking a step back, he has improved this year. He has gotten better, and especially, again, in the SEC championship game, and then what I saw against Clemson. I liked both of those games quite a bit, and so I want to give him credit for getting better, but up to this point, even, there's too much tape out there of the inconsistencies with Quinn Ewers, especially dialing things up to an NFL speed and an NFL level. He just still feels skittish in the pocket. He feels a little, uneasy when he is there. Sometimes he can muddy up a clean pocket himself, even though there's not anybody really imminently kind of coming towards him. He can he can bail from clean pockets. He can not move exactly where he needs to. So the inconsistencies there with Quinn Ewers, mainly from a pocket presence, have bothered me going to the NFL level, but I do think he is getting a little bit better. What did you think about him?
Yeah, the same. I mean, I actually really liked him over summer more than I thought I would. I was pretty high on him because I felt like he developed such a good command of what Sark was asking him to do that he kind of went from this big time recruit to, okay, no, I'm going to be the adult of the offense and I can point guard this thing up when I need to, but I also have enough talent to create and throw the ball down the field in small, sprinkles of it. And then this year, to be honest with you, I kind of came full circle, exactly what you said. There's just times where he doesn't have feel for pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It leads to a high turnover-worthy play rate.
Yep.
I mean, this year alone, 13 big-time throws to 16 turnover-worthy plays. And I believe that might have been before the Clemson game, but he only had one big-time throw in that game, which you said, well, like you said, it was a very clean game. The thing is, Trevor, I after watching a couple games of him, I filtered out his throws outside the numbers in the 10 plus kind of range to see how he's driving the ball. And he just doesn't drive the ball mechanically like a high-end NFL quarterback. It can kind of sail. The ball placement's erratic.
It's because the footwork, I think, is still just so... It's such a bad habit for him. It was really bad last year. I think it's gotten a little bit better this year, but I said this over summer scouting when we talked about Quinn. He is such an upper body thrower.
Yep.
He is supremely gifted in his arm talent. That ball fires off of his wrist when he flicks it. And I mean, you see, I talked about this over summer. He has this like high sidearm release where he's not really bringing it up and following through all the way down and across his chest. As the throwing technique that it's not the same for everybody, but this is just, kind of like a placeholder thing. When you throw the football, you're supposed to, that you turn the wrist and then the thumb goes into the opposite pocket, right? Like that's sort of the thought of like how you're supposed to finish a throw. He doesn't do that. Quinn is like up here, whoop, like that's it. Like that's his follow through. And that gets dangerous for him because it's so upper body. It's so upper body dependent. And the reason why people emphasize, quarterback coaches, everybody emphasizes so much on footwork is because you want repeatable throwing motions. It's like a basketball player. Why do they shoot a billion shots? Muscle memory. It's so when a defender is in their face or a situation is, the clock is coming down and you're hitting a last second shot and the playoffs are on the line and all the nerves in your body are going crazy, muscle memory takes over. And you want to be able to do that as a quarterback as well. So that's why we emphasize so much throwing motion and throwing fundamentals, because when the very inevitable chaos happens on any play in any moment in any game, you have to have that muscle memory that the ball is going to release exactly where it does at all times, and it's going to go exactly where it needs to. When Quinn plays backyard football, when he's escaping and scrambling a little bit, and there's somebody who's a little bit cross-body, and he just goes, woo, boom, the ball comes out, fire. Those are his best throws. Those are his throws to go like right to the receiver's hands.
Right.
It's how he plays in clean situations that worry the crap out of me. Because until he gets better with his footwork and his fundamentals, that part of his game is just going to be, in my opinion, just too erratic to say like, yeah, I could trust this guy. Let's draft him in the first round. Because right now I just get nervous about that.
And that's where I have the Zach Wilson brainwash in my head, because a lot of that was his exact problematic side of him. And I'm not calling Quinn Ewers Zach Wilson because I think he does some things pre-snap and overall command of the offense at a higher level. But I had written down over the summer that when you look at some of his off-target throws with his unconventional mechanics that you outlined really well with the flick kind of motion, because his feet aren't always tied to his upper body, he opens his front side. Mm-hmm. And you're more narrow as a quarterback and you're following through, like you said, thumb in the pocket. Sometimes he opens his front side fully. Like it's like chest to the defense while throwing. So you look for improvements to something like that, or just limiting those. And then you turn on the tape against Oklahoma this year. He has an interception in the beginning of the game. It's
Oklahoma game's bad, man. That's a bad tape for him.
It's 3rd and 14. It's the beginning of the game, opening drive. And good pass protection. We know how good these tackles are. He steps up into the pocket, and he does the same thing. There's a delayed blitzing linebacker who's just spying him, but the linebacker's not going to get there. and Quinn opens up that front side and throws it this way. So like when you pause it, he's open like this, but the arm is like this. And there is a wide receiver 30 yards down the field, wide open, cut it in breaking, and he sails this thing 5 yards over his head right into the lap of the safety for an interception. And that's the kind of stuff where, okay, I had a problem with that over summer, and now it's the same thing this year. So is this just who you are at this point? Because if you do that in the NFL, clean pocket, wide open wide receiver, basically a free explosive play, and you just airmail it because of your mechanics of the safety for a turnover, you will not be on the field very long. So Quinn is a frustrating watch because he's clearly a very talented guy. He seems like a pretty intelligent guy, but I don't know if he can change fully who he is that leads to the erratic ball placement in the 10-plus range. And that's something that's just non-negotiable for a high-end quarterback prospect to me.
When we were talking at the beginning of the show about guys potentially sitting, and we were joking around a little bit about that with Drake May. This class, in my opinion, is really going to test the patience, maybe the modern day problem, some people would say, about drafting a young quarterback and playing them right away, because most of the quarterbacks who are in this class require sitting, or at least that's what their film would tell you right now. I'm not holding anything against these guys. If you get a starting opportunity and they absolutely run with it, that's fantastic. I won't sit here and say that it's impossible, because I'll never say that. But you get a guy like Quinn Ewers, and you get a couple of guys that we're going to talk about a little bit later, like, they need to sit. Quinn is somebody who, if Quinn comes out this year, if you're starting him within the first 5 weeks of the season next year, you're going to be in trouble. And you're going to be doing it because you failed as an organization. Right. You did not put together the right strategy for that to be the case.
And then you fail him.
And then you fail your investment. So, to me, I don't think Texas is going to let Arch sit another year. So Quinn is not going to play for Texas next year. He's either going to play somewhere else or he's going to go to the NFL. I feel like he's going to go to the NFL, especially with back-to-back playoff appearances and then winning a playoff game, and we'll see how far they go in this one. So we obviously have some big games of Quinn to evaluate still throughout the rest of the season. Like I mentioned, Clemson game's one of my favorites that I've watched of Quinn. So I want to give him full credit in the world there. He definitely has an NFL arm. He totally has NFL arm talent. He has the ability to be a big-time playmaker when it comes out of structure stuff. But yeah, Kurt Warner was just talking about this earlier this week on Twitter. Kurt Warner was like, hey, I get it. We're all talking about, mobile quarterbacks, what they can do outside of the pocket, but you have to first be able to succeed in clean situations. That is why clean situations and early down passing are stable metrics according to PFF, because those are translatable things that you have to have at the NFL level. And under pressure passing grade is actually categorized as an unstable metric because it goes up and down. And even some of the guys who are the best at improvising, those situations are so crazy you don't really know. It's hard to even call it stable. So the stable situations, the stable metrics, early passing downs, clean passing situations, no play action, all of this stuff has to be there for you to be a down by down successful quarterback at the NFL level. And right now, Quinn doesn't do enough of the clean stuff well. Although, of course, like I said, I will give him credit. The last couple of weeks, I feel like it's been better for him. So that's where I'm at with Quinn.
Yep, I'm QB5. There's still things I like about him as a creator, twitchy athlete. When he's in command of the offense, he can play a really clean game, like he brought up the Clemson game, where the two guys I have behind him, and Carson, Beck, and Riley Leonard, when things get a little off the rails, they get really off the rails. Specifically Beck, who, I mean, to put it politely, kind of had a season from hell in terms of being being a top quarterback prospect to now.
So we can talk about Beck next. I mean, is he 6 for you? Because he's
yes.
7 for you?
He is 6 for me.
He is 7 for me. So yeah, same category here. I'll let you go with Beck. You can take the first crack at him.
So Beck in 2023 completed over 72% of his passes. He threw 24 touchdowns. He only had 6 picks and 11 turnover-worthy plays in total. This year, the passing yards went down. He still threw 28 touchdowns, 12 picks, 18 turnover-worthy plays, 21 big-time throws.
Mm-hmm.
So this is someone who I think over summer we were like, man, we just want to see him in uncomfortable situations to see how he responds, because the ball, it just effortlessly flies out of this guy's hand. He doesn't need a ton of space to get the ball out. I think he understood how to throw with anticipation. He's understanding routes and when the ball needs to be there. You can ask him to throw on the run. He's not a runner, but you could ask him to throw on the run. And the 11.1 yards per attempt off play action, he looked just really comfortable. And the third down specifically of the 2023 tape against Auburn, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Tennessee was like, this guy got to the line of scrimmage and he knew how to attack. This year, when things got bad, and I'm not talking about just a free blitzer running at him, I'm talking about pressure after 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. He had no answers. No answers in 2024. He completed 38.6% of his passes when he was under pressure. His yards per attempt went down to 5.6.
Mm-hmm.
His turnover-worthy play rate, Trevor, was 9.4%.
Is
like if Carson Beck was getting pressured, everybody on the Georgia sidelines had to hold their breath and cross their fingers and pray the ball wasn't about to be given to the other team. It was chaos. So what I notice is when he starts to feel that pressure, the eyes either go down or the feet get really jittery, and then the accuracy falls off a cliff. It's like, I just got to throw this ball, and hopefully it gets there, and I don't really know where it's going all the time. So the reality is we got what we wanted. We wanted to see him tested this year in uncomfortable pressure situations, and the answers were not what you wanted to see. It was really, really tough. This guy, if you can't keep him clean, you can't trust him right now. You can't trust him. And he's not creative enough of an athlete to work himself out of those situations. Where some of these guys, they get under pressure and they might not have all the answers to the test, or their accuracy might fall off a cliff, but they might be athletic enough to just make shit happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Beck doesn't have that card in his back pocket to lean on. And that severely limits him as a prospect right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the easy one is Jared Goff. Like, a lot of people look at Jared Goff as sort of a comp for him right now. When things are on script, he can really distribute the football and play very, very well. But certainly this year, he showed that if you pressure him, you struggle. And I think that's a Jared Goff thing. I think that's also, I don't know if I love the Jared Goff comp, but Jimmy Garoppolo is like another guy that I've thought about for Carson Beck, where it's like, okay, yeah, when things are going well for Jimmy, certainly when he was at San Francisco and things were very controlled and Kyle Shanahan was able to, cook up the offense in a certain way, he was able to play well. But when you got him off script and when you pressured him and when you had him in uncomfortable situations, he crumbled. And I don't want to be unnecessarily hard on Beck, because even though I'm not taking anything away from the numbers that you listed, because they're true and they're there for a reason, his like avoiding negatives percentile, like as a quarterback, even just this year, were still solid. Like, they were still in the low 70s. It was just the year before, it was, I think, he was 98th percentile for avoiding negatives. Like, he just never put the ball in harm's way. And this year he did a lot more. He did it a lot more, but it's not like he did it every time. But the times in which he chose wrong or made a decision poorly, it was like backbreaking. Like, it was truly like turnover stuff. It wasn't just, oh, you kind of missed the throw, it was a bad read. Like, it was backbreaking turnover-worthy plays or turnovers for him. So I wonder if the truth is probably somewhere in between the efficient player that we saw, very efficient player that we saw in 2023, and the version that we saw here in 2024. And if that's the case, I do think he'll get a shot to be a starter. Again, like, I go back to sort of that Jimmy Garoppolo type of quarterback. Like, he plays well enough when things are going well, and he's got a decent enough arm. Like, he's got a good arm for the NFL level. He's got good zip. He can attack over the middle. We've seen him complete all sorts of NFL throws, whether it's, attacking between the safeties and open coverage deep down the middle of the field, hitting the hole shots in between the safety and the corner against cover 2, like backside dig routes. Like, we've seen him attempt and complete NFL throws and NFL concepts. So he can absolutely do it. Especially with that, like, NFL offensive coordinator types of people there. So to me, I think that he's still a decent player, but not one that you would want to throw out there immediately. This is the backup theory. Draft Carson Beck, probably somewhere in the 3rd round, and let him sit. Just let him sit, let him learn a little bit. and get him out there. Maybe year 2, year 3, he could take over, and you got a decent starting quarterback option for you if whatever option A is doesn't end up going right. I don't think there's enough.
Right.
I don't think there's enough of those situations here at the NFL level right now. Carson Beck can kind of give you that, but yeah, definitely a fall in how he is perceived right now, and a struggle this year. And obviously Georgia's still in the college football playoff, but he is not. He's got a UCL injury. It was that same sort of injury that Brock Purdy had due to his throwing elbow, and he won't be able to play the rest of the postseason. So what we've seen is what we're going to get for him, and we'll see sort of what his offseason is like. I don't think he'll be able to throw at any sort of all-star events, so probably the next time we're talking about him is the Combine. We're getting to interview him and things like that. So those are my thoughts on Carson Beck. And then, yeah, I've got Riley Leonard ahead of him. You had Riley Leonard behind him, right?
Yeah, I had them really in this cluster together, that it was Quinn at 5, Beck at 6, Riley Leonard at 7.
So, Leonard's an interesting quarterback. I think he's really high variance. I think that he does a lot of good things well, but there are also just those moments where again, you just feel nervous watching him play. He's a great runner, and so because of that, that's why I ultimately have Riley Leonard above Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck, because I think Riley Leonard's got the adequate arm for the NFL level. I think he can put good zip on passes. I don't think he has the greatest arm when it comes to distance, but I think it's good enough to be able to threaten vertically, those fade routes, slot fades, corner routes, things up the sideline, out and ups, all that stuff. So, he could still stretch the ball a little bit. He's not going to be launching it on a rope, 50, 60 yards down the field, but he's got a good enough arm to be able to attack down the field vertically. But then you add in the mobility to him. He's a legitimate RPO type of a quarterback. He's a legitimate guy who can keep it, get you those short yardage first downs, scramble, be able to play outside of the pocket, that kind of stuff. But he makes you nervous because when he gets on the run, or when he tucks it to run, even when he's in the pocket, man, there are times where he'll hike the football, he'll look one spot, and it's like, okay, that primary read is covered. And then you could tell, he'll kind of lower the ball as if he's about to tuck it to run, but then he's like, nope. Okay, now I'm pulling the ball back up. Nope, just kidding. All right, now I need to run it because now it's too late. And it's just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And so there's a lot of, it feels like it's just you got to be ready. You got to strap in for
it's a chaotic watch.
You got to strap in for the roller coaster when you're watching Riley Leonard. But there are some really nice layered throws. There's some good stuff over the middle. I thought he played really nice against Indiana. Obviously, Notre Dame is still moving forward in the college football playoffs, so we'll get to continue to watch them. And I think the bigger the games, the bigger the stage, obviously, the more that could mean for his scouting report. But to me, even though Leonard is very up and down, even though his passing grade under pressure was a lot lower than it regularly is, he makes decent decisions. He doesn't get sacked a ton. He's got an NFL arm, and he's the type of player that I think the NFL would look at and go, again, give me this guy to mold. And if you draft him and start him right away, just going to have to deal with the struggles because they're going to be there. But if you draft him and you give him a little bit of time to learn and you sort of get that confidence down and you sort of take a deep breath with him, get him to calm down a little bit. I don't know, doing yoga maybe. Let's get some balance,
meditation,
some morning yoga, a little meditation from him. If you can calm him down in the pocket a little bit, he does, in my opinion, bring you a lot of NFL type of traits that you would like for a guy that gives you bonus abilities with his legs as much as what he can do with his arm as well. So ultimately, that dual threat package is why I ended up having him at 6 over those other two guys.
Yeah, he's a great runner, a great athlete. We've talked about the track background and triple jump, long jump, high jump, 300-meter hurdles. It's funny because Leonard feels like, and his dad, we talked about too, played basketball for the Citadel in the 90s, finished second in program history for steals. This guy. And
he played basketball too, and Leonard played basketball too. He went to, I think, a Final Four in high school. He had over 20 points per game. Yeah, right here. 20.9 points per game and 8.5 rebounds per game. So, this dude was a legit basketball player, too. He had offers from St. Mary's, from Sanford, from Missouri. This guy could have played basketball in high school as well.
I believe it. He is that kind of athlete. And it's weird with the Notre Dame offense. I had written this down. He only had a handful of games this year, I feel like, that he needs to throw for over 200 yards. Like, it's just not. So there was only he only threw for more than 200 yards in 4 of his 2024 games. It's not this air it out offense or drop back a million times and throw. He is such a running threat. He almost feels like, and I know it's cliche because they both have the Duke background and everything, but he feels like he's going to be drafted how Daniel Jones should have been treated.
Should have been. Right.
Daniel Jones turned into this prospect that he wasn't, and it never really made sense. But Riley Leonard is a very similar prospect in terms of he's got the size.
Yep.
He's a legit NFL runner, and he's got the physical talent to make all of the throws. But you need to find a way to rein in the chaos through his brain at times. And I think, to be fair, that's why I was really excited about him transferring. This Notre Dame offense has done that for the most part. Like, yes, his numbers overall against pressure this year are not great, but they've understand how to walk the fine line of using his athleticism and not have him being this drop back 50 times a game kind of quarterback, and they've gotten the most out of him. So there's more football left for him. He's accepted a Senior Bowl invite. I completely agree with you. I'll take the samples of the tape on 2022 and 2024 where he's throwing vertically with confidence. Even if it's low volume, when he gets the chances, there's the flashes there. The tight windows throws are there. Riley Leonard is a flashes example guy, and an NFL team will watch that and go, if I can get more of this out of him, we will have something here.
Yep.
So I think he'll be honestly one of the risers throughout the process just because of the kind of athlete he is.
I feel like he's somewhere between Jeff Driscoll and Daniel Jones to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's like it's that sort of time, and maybe he's even better than Daniel Jones, right? I mean, like maybe we get to a point where he's like it like ascended.
I think he's comparable.
When it comes to like comparisons, I would say that his pro comp is somewhere between like Jeff Driscoll and a Daniel Jones. So that's sort of where I'm at with Riley Leonard, who I think is going to be all over the place when it comes to rankings. Some people are going to love him, some people are going to not want to believe in him. But now we'll get into the top 5. Well, before we get into the top 5, New Year's resolutions, guys. It's all about, making these commitments, these promises, these resolutions that are going to last, right? I feel like that doesn't happen for most people. Instead of doing something that you're going to forget in a couple of weeks, what about a resolution to invest in your kid's financial future? For any of the parents out there with a kid's investment account from Fabric by Gerber Life, your investments can keep growing after your New Year's resolutions fade, giving your kids a solid start towards their financial future right now. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kid's investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids, they cannot invest when they're minors, but a kid's investment account can allow your investments on their behalf to keep growing as they grow. It's all online, easy to set up. It could take you just 5 minutes to do, and then you can just manage it all right from your phone. The funds can be used in anything. While they're still a child, tuition, music classes, after-school activities, summer camps, all that kinds of stuff, or when they're a little bit older, first car, first house, starting a business, all that kinds of good stuff. The possibilities are endless for all the benefits that this could have. It starts with just $20, no contribution limits, tax advantages, and your funds are SIPC insured up to $500,000, plus no commission fees, just a flat monthly maintenance fee. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child's future today at meetfabric.com/stock exchange. That's meetfabric.com/stock exchange, meetfabric.com/stock exchange. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investment is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, so I said that I have Gabriel at 4. So we've already talked about Dillon. Gabriel in my top 5. We've already talked about.
I had Quinn at 5.
Your number 5 in Quinn Ewers. So who do you have at 4?
Jaxson Dart.
Whoa! All right.
Is he not in your top 10?
He is not in my top 10.
Wow.
This is so, man, I wondered if we were going to get a polar opposite at some point in this group.
I guess this is it.
Jaxson Dart is my polar opposite, which means I have somebody in my top 5 who you do not have in your top 10 or your top 11, because I think we talked about your top 11.
Very interesting.
Which is also the case because I have Jaxson Dart much further down my list as well.
So Jaxson Dart,
we see him extremely differently. I cannot wait for this.
I mean, I want to have a clarifier that I used over summer. I'm just being very blunt. I don't like this quarterback class. Like I said there was no first round grade for anyone over summer, and I'm still sitting here going, I don't love this quarterback class. Like I would have very cold feet if I had to bet my GM job on this quarterback class, is how I will frame this.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Jaxson Dart, and I have him at QB4, but that is a very different QB4 than last year when we were talking about Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels. You liked Bo Nix, and he's done a lot of good things this year. JJ McCord, like, so yes. All right. I'll get into what I like about Jaxson Dart, but it just needs to be framed that like, this is such a different group.
Well, you're taking a risk on somebody who had a baseball background. He's a good athlete. He knows how to throw the football. Like, you're just taking a chance.
Yes.
You're taking a chance on that guy. I get it.
He's a total ball of clay. And I totally understand coming from this offense. I mean, listen, guys, has less than 30 snaps under center over the last 2 seasons. Like, I don't want this guy to be on an NFL field.
That many in Lane's offense.
Right. I know. It's like, how? So,
dude, you know what's funny? Graham Mertz, I think what was it? I think Graham Mertz had 250 snaps under center in the 3 years that he was a starter for Wisconsin. And like, that's a lot
that is like a lot of college.
For today's quarterback. If you have 250 career snaps under center, you are legitimately a pro style caliber quarterback because you have the ability to play under center. He had 1 snap under center at Florida. 1.
That's how it goes.
250 in 3 years at Wisconsin. He had 1 at Florida.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Well, Lane, I'm surprised that he even had 30 snaps under center.
Yeah, not much there. Now, Dart's been, not surprisingly productive in this offense this year. 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 10 turnover-worthy plays, almost 3,900 yards. That doesn't really mean much. You got to watch to understand the context. He had 28 big-time throws. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is why Jaxson Dart is my QB4. He's got a really good arm. And it's not just he could throw the ball far. He's got arm talent. He could throw the ball with unique location, like locating. He could throw the ball off platform. He can drive the ball, or he has multiple pitches to me. On top of that, he's a good athlete. This is somebody that ran for 584 yards this year. He picked up 30 first downs with his legs. He's not small like a lot of guys in this class. He's 6'2", 220. He's a pretty average size quarterback, but he can run. And he's got a really good arm. The intermediate range, I thought the intermediate middle of the field throws were the most impressive part for me. Where I looked at him and I started to take him really serious as a quarterback prospect. And I want to pull up his passing depth chart here. So his throws from the 10 to 19 yard range in the middle of the field, he was 40 of 53.
Yep.
He averaged 15.5 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick. Like, he could genuinely drive the ball in windows in the middle of the field from the pocket or on the move. Once again, another thing, I like the kid's makeup. Like, I see it on the field. He's got a different makeup to me. I saw him hang in there and get the absolute snot knocked out of him time and time again to make a throw. And I'm going to be honest, there are guys in this class that I saw didn't want to be about that life, or they got hit early in a game and things looked a lot different for the next 3 quarters. And I didn't really see that a lot with Jaxson Dart. I think there's a little something different to him. Now, does it shock me, considering his dad was a safety for Utah, that the DNA is a little bit psychotic in a good way?
Likes hits, likes to take hits.
It does not mind getting hit. I think how calculated he is with his rushing can be really important for his NFL development. 36 first downs in 2023 with his legs. Once again, 30 last year. It's a part of his game that when you open up the field and it's not there, he can make something happen with his legs. Another positive for him, he cut his last 3 seasons. He's cut his fumbles down from 7 to 5 to 3. So he's understanding how to take care of the football now. What's that?
That's good. 7's way too high.
7's and man, you want to talk about fumbles in this class. These guys throw this football around the field like it's nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot of like bad ball security.
Three in this class. You are the angel of this draft. You're on the podium. Let's get into the bad, because I want to be honest. He's going to be 22 on draft day. I think he needs a true redshirt year, maybe 2. Like, full transparency. He is an inconsistent thrower that will miss a layup and then just hit an impossible throw. And you're sitting there and you're just like, man, what? I thought the Georgia game this year kind of modeled that. I brought up how he just has no experience under center. He does get a little happy, especially against zone coverage, staring and patting the ball, and zone defenders will jump on that, or at least it'll cue them and give them a little bit of a cheat code. He takes a lot of bad sacks in an offense, to me, that should limit sacks. He took 26 last year. He took 25 this year. The situational awareness has to get better. And once in a while, in an offense that's really good at drawing up first read, when the first read isn't there, and the rush is coming, he could stare at the rush. So, like, he's got real things he needs to clean up, where I get it why you didn't even have him in your top 10, because Jaxson Dart is a guy that in 3 years could be out of the NFL. But in this class where I'm just searching for talent, both athletically and arm strength wise and arm talent wise and DNA wise, I would rather draft him somewhere on day 2 and stash him than a lot of these other guys, including the combo we just had between Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, and Riley Leonard to a degree. And I know that, hey, it might not work out. And a lot of this is going to depend on the mental fortitude and the mental capacity of this guy being tested at NFL football. But I mean, there are starter traits here in a class that a lot of these guys don't have starter traits.
I think the biggest area where we disagree is in overall arm talent for him, because I think that just listening to you believe in his arm talent more than I do. Yeah. Because a lot of the things that you were saying, I agree with, like light on his feet, multi-sport background, natural athlete, really nice as maybe not an RPO type of option at the NFL level, but somebody that you gotta keep tabs on, or he's going to pick up some first downs against you. Like somebody who can actively move, he can scramble well, all this kinds of stuff. If I thought he had a better arm, I think he's got a good arm for the NFL level. I don't know if I'd go past that. I feel like it's adequate to good, and I think just you believing that he has a higher arm talent understands why you would go, okay, let me get this guy to bet on, to bet on some of the traits a little bit more. The area was where I get the things that I get nervous about with Jaxson Dart. And I don't disagree with you about like the redshirt NFL year. I definitely don't disagree with you there. I think that like time sitting could really help him. When I look at his weaknesses, these are the things that I have listed. Forces the primary read too often, certainly in Lane Kiffin's offense. I think that a lot of his statistical, like marvels in his production come from being in Lane's offense. I think a lot of it is scheme dependent, because I felt like he didn't really get off the primary read nearly as much as I wanted him to. When things weren't on the primary read, he wasn't super comfortable and didn't have the timing to be able to move throughout things. Like he does, like he understands like concepts, slant flat, curl flat, smash concepts where you're basically reading one defender. You're hiking the football, you're looking at things pre-snap, and you're reading one defender. And you're saying, okay, there's a route concept and a route combination here. And I'm not necessarily like saying that's a bad thing. Like quarterbacks at every single level do that. But beyond those concepts, I didn't really see him do full field reads, multi-progression reads. Like I just didn't see him do a lot of that outside of scheme type of stuff. And even
they're not going to ask him to.
And they just didn't ask him to do it. I felt like the eyes and the anticipation needed to improve. I felt like he was too comfortable throwing off of the back foot. The deep ball placement and the deep ball accuracy wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. And the biggest issue that I have with all of this with Dart is that he's started for 3 years. So where he is still, what is he, 22? You said he's like 22?
Draft day age is 22.
So he'll be 22 when he is drafted. I do have to look at the experience and say,
Let me walk that back. He will be 21 when drafted.
Okay, so he'll be 21. So he is a younger player. So he is a younger adult. He has been starting for 3 years. So it's hard for me to go, okay, well, you just need more time, because not only have you gotten time, you've also gotten experience. And to be fair to him, he has gotten better in certain ways. But maybe he just needs to get out of the Lane Kiffin system in order to fully blossom. That could be the case. But I am very hesitant, and I just don't think he's going to be for me in this class because of how scheme dependent he is and how I don't love betting on scheme dependent quarterbacks becoming more diverse in how they see the field at the NFL level. So
yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, you got to know what you're signing up for.
Yes.
With this. Like,
yes.
He's not somebody that should be taken in the first round. He's not somebody that should be taken with early expectations. He's a project dart throw that you hope.
Full pun intended.
Yeah, nice.
He's a throw of the dart.
Literally. You can mold with his ability.
All right. Number 4 for me? No, wait. Number 5 for me, because Dillon Gabriel is number 4. Got Will Howard, brother.
Wow, okay.
Did you watch Will? Is he on your list?
I have. I did a Will Howard breakdown for NBC like 3 weeks ago.
Will Howard. Really, honestly, like, I do feel kind of bad because you did it like 3 weeks ago. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he's just been on an absolute heater.
No, it was because of that. It was because of that. It was when he started to actually like do things in the offense, not just be a part of the offense.
Yes,
is how I would frame it. But he's been better. You're right. He's been, besides the Michigan game.
But even the Michigan game, I mean, like the Michigan game wasn't great. But
I'm not going to talk myself into that one.
The Michigan game wasn't great objectively. I think everybody on Ohio State was playing with the tightest buttholes humanly possible. Like, I just think
an AFC North game.
I think they were just so scared not to screw it up that they screwed it up. That's how, and you could kind of, because the game against Tennessee, night and day, they're not nervous at all. They came out and punched them in the mouth. That is how this Ohio State team is supposed to play. But anyways, so getting to Will Howard. 6'4", 240 pounds, 75th percentile in height, 93rd percentile in size. So the dude is built for the NFL level.
Yep.
He was at Kansas State for, 4 years, I believe, before he got over to Ohio State. He was like a spot starter, kind of competing for the job at Kansas State. Ended up starting all 12 games last year. They move on, and now they got Avery Johnson starting there. Will Howard moves on, and obviously he's playing with Ohio State. So it's his first year in Ohio State system. It's taken him a little bit of time, but man, I feel like the last 5 games outside of the Michigan game, like the Michigan game was not pretty, but it was almost like the entire team was just not ready for that game. Like the coaching staff just had none of those players ready for that football game, whether it was Chip Kelly, whether it was Ryan Day, none of those dudes were ready for that Michigan game. And outside of the Michigan game, he's played really well. That Tennessee game, he played unbelievable. I think he's got ideal size for the NFL. I think he is not hesitant to throw on the run and be an athlete, especially at his size. When you have that plus measurables in height and weight, yet you are athletic enough to get out of the pocket, take a hit, hit some throws while scrambling. I think that is great. He's got above average arm strength for the NFL level, I believe. To me, he is very conscious in resetting his feet when he is outside of the pocket, when he is scrambling, and I like that his fundamentals are pretty clean in there. What I love the most about Will Howard is that in just this year against Ohio State, he has made so many NFL throws. He has made basically every NFL throw that you have wanted him to make at one point in time. He has recognized press coverage in cover 1 or cover 3 on the outside. And when his wide receiver gets even on a vertical fade, he's given them a chance before the safety can move over. And he is able to view when the single high safety is on the close hash, the near hash, or he's on the opposite hash. And he is able to recognize that and take a shot at one of those receivers getting vertical up the sideline, whichever spot that he knows the safety cannot get to, and he has the best advantage for. That's a true NFL throw, knowing how to attack press coverage when it's single high situations. I have seen him attack posts from the tight end position or even the wide receiver position against open coverage. So you got two safeties in the middle of the field, and you were hitting it beyond the linebacker level when it's not a Tampa coverage, and you're hitting it right in between that free and strong safety because it's open right over the middle of the field. I have seen him hit the hole shots confidently between where the up corner is and the deep safety are against cover two, and just get it right in between those guys and just lace it right in between them, right at the sideline. I have seen him hit all these different concepts, dagger concepts, Yankee concepts, the slant flats, the curl flats, all this. I have seen him make so many different NFL throws in this offense that it's hard for me to not look at him, look at the measurables, the overall arm talent, how he can be an option with his legs and when scrambling out of bounds, when scrambling out of the pocket, and not think, give me this guy to draft and develop a little bit here, and we might have something that's pretty nice. Maybe he's a backup journeyman throughout his NFL career, but it's hard to see him fail. Right? It's hard it's hard for me to look at Will Howard, especially how he has played over the last month and a half. And certainly in that Tennessee game, we'll see how he plays against Oregon. And not think that this is a guy who at the very worst is going to be a preferred backup at the NFL level and probably somebody who's going to get the chance to start one or two times throughout his NFL career, maybe three times depending on how long his NFL career is. So he brings a multi-sport background with basketball, so you get to check that box as well. So Pete Carroll, shout out. You got the offensive, or you got the multi-sport background there for him. Just, he can operate the RPOs. He's done stuff under center. His 2024 is just so NFL-y to me. It's like you talked about with Jaxson, in the way where you're like, hey, I'm going to bet on this guy for a certain reason. Yeah. Give me Will Howard because I've already seen the NFL stuff from him. Have I seen it super consistently? Did it happen all year long? Did it happen at the highest level of efficiency? No. Did I see it? Yes. And if I've seen it from him, I know he could do it. And now it's just a matter of doing it more against NFL level competition. So I like a lot of what Will Howard brings to the table because I think his game is very NFL-ish right now.
Yeah, he's played really good football down the stretch. The tape breakdown I did was showing how he went from kind of being like a passenger of the offense to making plays to elevate the offense with his arm. The thing where I think we're different on this one is ironic because it's the same argument against and for Jaxson Dart. For his size, I wasn't blown away by the arm with Will Howard. And he's a guy that I'm really looking forward to see throw at the Senior Bowl because maybe I'm just wrong. When he has to drive the ball outside the numbers or attack in between safeties, I don't think he has a great arm. I think he has you see a guy 6'4", 240 pounds, and you think he's got a howitzer. And I don't know if it's the way he's delivering it or the inconsistency of it. There's just times where the ball hangs too much where I think he should drive the ball. And I think while he has rushing ability, it's kind of clunky to me. Like he's a clunky runner. He's not a very slippery runner.
Dude. He's 240. Yeah. He's carrying some lumber.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to get hit a lot in the NFL.
No, he's going to serve hits.
And you want to talk about, once again, 6 fumbles this year. Like, this is another guy that just spits out the football. And that's not even a bad number compared to some of these guys. It's not good.
We got to get him in with the running backs. We got to get him doing drills with the running backs.
Ball security
drills. That's what we got to do here. So I like
that was a fun surprise.
I like Will Howard. I think it's very fun that we both had a player in our top fives that was not in the other person's top five.
Well, Howard can continue to make himself a lot of money right now.
Yep.
For what he's done down the stretch. Because I watched him the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, and I was like, man, this is a kind of surprise to me. This is Ohio State's quarterback. And then really, since the Purdue game, when he got going, I saw a different quarterback. So I agree with you on that. Let's see what he could do throughout the playoff and then the All-Star circuit.
3, 2, 1. Who do you have? What order? And then I think we'll just kind of talk about these guys. And I think that we should talk about them under the umbrella of, is there anybody that you think the league is going to be high enough on for top 5 picks, things like that, and then where you are on with them overall. So let's talk about these 3 here. What's your order?
Jalen Milroe from Alabama at 3. I don't think that surprises anybody. Shedeur Sanders from Colorado at 2 and Cam Ward from Miami at 1.
We have the same top 3 in the same order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know you really liked Milroe for a while.
So the thing with Milroe I'm not changing my stance on the fact that I would love to bet on this player. But it is like we have talked about with a lot of quarterbacks in this class. I want you to draft him to sit. I want you to draft him to develop him. I don't want you to draft Jalen Milroe to try to play him immediately at the NFL level. He is going to struggle. And the reason why I had him at QB1 when we did our first, quarterback updates is because we were fresh off of the Georgia game and the Vanderbilt game. Those are the previous 2 games that he played.
Yeah.
And the Georgia game, he was fantastic. And in the Vanderbilt game, even though they lost, he had an elite PFF grade that game. He was great that game. Not perfect, but he had so many great moments, great plays that he made. So off of that, I looked at those inconsistencies that I saw the year before. I still saw so many of the big-time throws. He is the most, I have this in the scouting report, he is the most physically gifted quarterback in this class. When it comes to the rushing ability, when it comes to the twitched up muscles, when it comes to his just like the velocity, how the ball can fire off of his hands, he is the most physically gifted quarterback in this class. But as the season went on from that game moving forward, the inconsistencies that you worried about with Milroe going into the season crept back up and became regular for him. They unfortunately became the expectation of what you knew you were going to get with him. So to me, Milroe still brings all of that to the table that I loved. I think that his talents is where the game is going with dual threat ability. He's got legit 4.3, 4.4 speed. I think the ball fires off of his wrist like an absolute rocket. I think he can hit throws on a frozen rope. But his throwing motion is so fast that if it is not perfect in its fundamentals, then that ball sprays. That ball goes way further than it. And it's different because if Kurtis Rourke is a little bit off, it's not as much of a big of a deal because his arm is moving slower. He's not as twitched up in his muscles. Jalen Milroe, it's like, okay, I'm throwing this football, boom, like it's the ball is out immediately. And when you are firing the ball that quick, if you are not exactly on your P's and Q's with your fundamentals, which I think that he can be better at, that's when you see that accuracy and that true ball placement fade. So to me, he brings so much of what you love from a potential NFL quarterback, but he needs time and he needs the right head coach. Still love Jalen Milroe, but I had to put him at 3 because the inconsistencies that I was hoping that he was getting over creeped back up into more of what was expected of him every single week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you all the way on this one. Milroe has the best physical ability in this class, but he feels like a creative player right now rather than an NFL quarterback. And that's okay, but just understand it's going to take time, and it's probably why he won't be a top 20 to 25 pick. So
I don't think so either. I would love for him to go in the second round, right?
Me too.
Like that's what I would love for Jalen Milroe to go in the second round. But it's just those inconsistencies. The avoiding negatives, 11th percentile. Sacks taken, 2nd percentile.
Which got a lot better this year. I mean, this is somebody last year that took 44 sacks.
But it's just like that stuff's got to get so much better. The
this
time
year
to
he
throw
took
is
18.
The time to throw is 317. Like over the last 2 years. Like it's just high. Now,
I know.
There's stuff that you love. Dude, look at his 3rd and 7 numbers. I talked about loving that the 3rd and long numbers for quarterbacks. 3rd and 7 plus. 53.9% past the stick. So he's trying to do that thing with his arm. 12 big time throws on 3rd and 7 plus 5 turnovers compared to 5 turnover worthy plays. You love what this guy could do with his arm. But then you go to middle of the field stuff. 1 big time throw, 4 turnover worthy plays, still at a pretty good PFF grade. And he's okay with throwing over the middle of the field. He doesn't do it a ton, but it's just really the avoiding negatives, the big, you know what actually I think is the big reason why I'm not even more bullish on him. For as much as Jalen Milroe is great as a runner, he had a 38.8 passing grade when scrambling. Like, it was not a major part of his game to get out of the pocket.
There's runners and there's scramblers. They're not the same thing.
Yeah, and he just has not developed into being a scrambling type of quarterback. Now, Jaden Daniels kind of wasn't that too last year, and now he is at the NFL level, but I don't think that Jalen Milroe is the passer that Jaden Daniels was even last year. So that is another area where you could say to yourself, I think that's a great point that you bring up. You can't go, oh, Jalen Milroe, he's really athletic. He's going to make a lot of throws on the run for you. Numbers don't say that. The tape doesn't say that. Not that he's incapable of doing it, but the inconsistencies that he has operating from a clean pocket only get worse when he runs outside of the pocket. And that is a metric that you wished was much higher for a player that you're going to draft because of his athletic ability in a lot of ways. So Milroe is going to be somebody it's hard for me to quit, but don't draft him like Anthony Richardson.
Right.
Because you're going to ruin a good thing. You're going to ruin a good thing, I think. So I hope he goes to a good coach somewhere on day 2.
Insane rushing production, 28 missed tackles forced this year on the ground, 52 first downs, over 800 rushing yards. He's got the big arm that you highlighted, Trev, but the accuracy, because of the mechanics being he's an arm thrower a lot.
Yeah.
And the ball just goes flying. I think it's still a work in progress, that timing and route communication with the wide receivers, being on the same page with them. And it only gets harder in the NFL where the windows are so much smaller. So this is somebody that has round 1 traits, but is not a round 1 prospect, in my opinion. And I hope he goes to a situation where he gets to develop, because it can all come together for him. And he has a really interesting decision ahead of him right now. He's not officially in the draft yet? I don't think so.
No.
So it'll be very interesting to see what he does.
Right.
Because he it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. In theory, he should go back to school and get better. But he can capitalize on a weak quarterback draft.
Right.
Because the kid has a lot of traits.
Right.
So we'll see what he does.
We'll see. Shedeur and Cam. Let's talk about them.
Same order for you?
Yeah, I have Shedeur and then Cam. If there's a quarterback that I'm going to take a legitimate franchise chance on, it's Cam Ward.
I'm with you all the way, buddy.
He just presents you that skill set.
Yeah, and there's things you're signing up for with Cam Ward. Listen, he's still chaotic as much as he's gotten so much better at. This is someone. Oh, and let me put this. I want to mention this with Milroe because it matters a lot. It's going to transition into Cam Ward. And to be fair, Milroe's volume of running plays into this, so the context is needed. But Milroe fumbled 13 times last year and 9 this year. Like that's and it needs context because he's almost used like a running back at times, but it's obviously a high number. Cam Ward, 15 turnover-worthy plays this year, 26 big-time throws. He threw 36 touchdowns, 7 picks. So the turnover-worthy plays are much higher than the actual interception rate. He ran for 21 first downs, over 300 rushing yards. He cut down his turnover-worthy plays from 21 to 15 this year compared to his 2023 with Washington State. His passing touchdowns went up. His big-time throws went up. This is somebody that started for 2 years for Incarnate Ward, 2 years for Washington State, now a year for Miami. Physically, this is what you're getting. Even though he's about 6'1" and 3/8, 216 pounds, snappy, just low-effort thrower. Low effort. Like, I don't need my whole body to throw the ball.
Yeah.
I can kind of flick my wrist.
He's got a lot of arm talent, man.
A lot of arm talent, drives the ball outside the numbers. The athleticism is quick twitch athleticism to activate the scramble drill. Cam Ward, scrambler. Can he run? Yeah, but he's a scrambler, not a runner.
Mm-hmm.
But when he scrambles, and it's scramble drill time, and you got the right receivers, you're in trouble. Because when this guy breaks out of the pocket or resets in the pocket is when he's at his best at times. You nailed this with Milroe, not good at throwing on the run. Cam Ward is phenomenal throwing on the run.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. He could change his arm angles. When they run a lot of slants in this offense, he changes his arm angles to understand the timing and the window of the slant to throw it through pass rushers because he likes to throw the ball low and hard so you can catch and run, especially the timing him and Restrepo had. I thought he, while not perfect, had a better check down understanding in 2024. Like, let the play die sometimes. It's not perfect, but it's getting better is how I would frame it. He's got touch on the deep ball. He doesn't care about getting hit when he runs. He's all about picking up the first down. The completion percentage, it dropped a lot when he was pressured. You're still worried about the turnover-worthy play rate. That's still high, even though it improved. He's got to be careful with these cross-body throws when he drifts.
Yes.
Like that drifting out, cross-body. You can't do it in the NFL very often.
Yeah.
You really can't.
Yeah.
He's a chaotic brand of football, as I said over summer. But I thought he made massive strides this year to become what's going to be a round one quarterback prospect.
He's one of the most confident quarterbacks that you'll watch, and I absolutely love that about his game. We talked about how, like McCord believes in himself, Dillon Gabriel believes in himself. You just get these quarterbacks that are incredibly confident. Cam Ward is just ultra confident, man. I mean, and it goes back to his background. 0-star recruit, starting in Incarnate Word. Nobody believed in him. He climbed up.
What do I have to lose?
Right. He climbed up from Incarnate Word. He climbed up to Washington State, proved that he could play at the FBS level. Then he transfers over to Miami, and he ends up being a Heisman Trophy candidate, playing at an incredibly high level. I mean, dude, his first game at Miami, he comes out of the gate in the swamp at Florida and absolutely clowns him. Just absolutely whoops on him. And that was the beginning of an incredible season for Cam Ward, who had multiple games where he was an elite passer. And yeah, I mean, look, a lot of the things that are like the negatives of his scouting report, you kind of have to live with some of them. I think that they can get better in ways, like his sack percentage, like his sack rate, 26, yes. Like 26. I think that could be a little bit lower there, but 26th percentile, I think is good enough. Avoiding negatives, like negatively graded throws, that's 64th percentile. So obviously that can be a little bit better there as well. You can talk about the fundamentals. I mean, if you want a guy who's got crisp fundamentals at the quarterback position, just throw Cam Ward off of your board. Like there's no sense in even talking about him, because if that's something that you value above anything else, he's just not going to be for you. But if you're allowed to look at Cam Ward for what he is, this is a player who can succeed at the NFL level. This is a player that can win games for you year after year as an NFL quarterback. Are you going to have to live with some boneheaded decisions? Yeah. Or do you hope that they're a lot? Yes, of course. You don't want him to be Jameis Winston, but I don't think he has to be Jameis Winston. I don't think when you're signing up for Cam Ward, I don't think you're signing up for Jameis. I think Cam approaches the game more in a more cerebral way than Jameis does. Jameis is just much more of a wild, loose cannon. And I think when people look at Cam Ward's numbers, they think that. But when you watch the tape of Ward, he's not a loose cannon. He's
more
just
Jordan Love-ish than Jameis.
He's so much closer to Jordan Love than he is Jameis Winston. He's not like this like crazily reckless loose gunslinger. He's just incredibly confident. He's just willing to make the throws that you need to make to win football games. And I think that is a good mentality. You don't want to coach that out of somebody. You don't want to not see that. You want to be able to lean into that. My comp for him is, and obviously this is high. This is the high end of things. But he plays like Big Ben. Like he plays like Ben Roethlisberger, right? He doesn't really have mobility to him, but he's got that, weird escape ability where people watch Big Ben and he was this escape artist and he'd make crazy throws on the run and he'd make all of these plays outside of structure, but he could also make the throws inside structure. And I think that of Cam Ward. Now, Ben didn't have like the crazy sidearm releases that Ward does, so it's not like a one-on-one comp, but the style of play to me that Cam Ward has is Ben Roethlisberger. So there's so much that he does well, and most importantly, he plays the position in a way that you need to play to win football games. My bottom line for Cam Ward, an appreciation of Ward requires a leap of faith for an unorthodox, big game hunting quarterback. He is ultra confident, at times to a fault, but his mentality could one day make him an all-pro player. That is, if his fundamentals don't drop him from the league entirely. So that is how I encapsulate everything that Cam Ward is. But in this quarterback class, setting it up as saying, who would you take? Give me Cam Ward. He gives you that ceiling.
I'm with you. He's the guy I would take. If I had to bet on a quarterback in this draft that I think can lead our franchise and win us games, he's the guy I would take for sure. It's just amazing to me. Miami, in 11 of their 12 games this year, scored 36 points or more. Like, think of how many times
That is a Cam Ward stat.
they had to answer because the defense stunk. Cam, can you go get us another? Cam, can you go get us another? Over and over and over again.
And sometimes
battle tested.
And sometimes they had to answer because Cam Ward would make the turnover-worthy play. But guess what? He can. He did. Look at that Virginia Tech game. They're down in that Virginia Tech game because of him. And he marches them back to win. He gives you that ability, man. You obviously want to cut down on the turnover-worthy plays. There's stuff that you got to live with.
Yeah.
But yes.
2 losses this year, Georgia Tech and Syracuse. He threw 5 touchdowns and no picks. At some point, he's constantly lifting them. Cam Ward's had an incredible season. And Cam Ward, people hate this, but there is a feeling when Cam Ward's getting the football back that something's going to happen.
Yes.
And that's you got to feel. You got to watch the games and feel that. And I felt that with Cam Ward every time I watched.
Which quarterback strikes fear in defenses the most in this class? In my opinion, it's not even close. It's Cam Ward. But I do think the guy who is at number 2 is at number 2 for that very reason, because of how Shedeur plays the game. Shedeur, he's not quite built like an NFL quarterback. He's a little bit smaller. I've talked about this before. I don't think he's got the greatest arm in the world. I think I think Teddy Bridgewater is my comp for him. I've liked it from the very beginning. I'm sticking with it here because even though Teddy Bridgewater didn't have the greatest arm, go back and watch that Louisville tape from Teddy. Go back and watch Teddy when he is playing at his best. He understands how to read things pre-snap. He understands how to go through progressions post-snap. He gives his players the ability to go make great plays. He is not afraid to take a hit, and he's got ice in his veins. And that is Shedeur to me. This is a player who back against the wall can play very, very well. Now, ultimately, again, the arm talent worries me a little bit just because you've got to be such an assassin between the ears. I mean, Joe Burrow's basically the ceiling of what Shedeur Sanders would be, right? And I don't think he is Joe Burrow. But that is what we're talking about here, is a player who has to anticipate so well to sort of make up for a little bit of a lack of arm strength there for him. I don't think he's Burrow, but I would say that he's Teddy Bridgewater. And I think Teddy Bridgewater could have been a starter in this league for a decent amount of time had he not gone through his leg injury. So that's how I see Shedeur in this class, as sort of an ice in his veins, tough as nails, elite processor type of a quarterback who just might not have the best arm out there.
Yeah, Shedeur had a lot of moments this year where he had to answer, and he came up big for them. Like, there's no denying that. I've complimented before how impressive he is mechanically. With Shedeur, everything often looks the same.
Yes,
and that's a really impressive positive. Like, nothing. It's not a grab bag of what this throw is going to look like on 3rd and 12. Shedeur is going to drop back, and his feet are tied to his eyes, and he's going to understand how to follow through and accurately throw the football. I like his throwing motion. I think he can shorten it when he needs to, when he feels that pressure, or when things get close quarters kind of tight. Middle field, short, intermediate, deep. I mean, Shedeur can throw the middle of the field. You don't really worry about that with him. You're right, Trevor. He's small. Like, his spring list for us was 6'1 and a quarter, 198. I'm sure he's going to gain a lot of weight for the combine, but he's probably going to play around 6'1", 207 throughout his NFL career. That's not big for a quarterback.
Right.
And physically, you can see that. For how accurate Shedeur is and how impressive he is operating the pocket, and he's not a runner, but he can kind of bounce his way to buy time, he still takes a ton of sacks, man.
Pocket management is the biggest issue from Shedeur Sanders. Yes.
49 in 2023, and everybody was like, this offensive line stinks. And it did. But you can watch the tape and decide what sack is on the line and what sack is on him. Mm-hmm. He still took 37 this year. And these are like
6th percentile in sack rate. Not good. 99 is what you want for people out there. Just to let you know, 99th percentile is what you want. He is 6th percentile in sack rate.
That's a number that's not going to be kind to him throughout this process, because it didn't really get that much better in college, and it's going to be a lot more difficult in the NFL. Like, think of it like this. The Giants are picking number 1. imagine the Giants throwing Shedeur Sanders behind that offensive line right now. You can't do it right now. You'd have to.
Well,
and
you can't do it because of him too. Like he's.
But
part
no,
of
that's what I'm saying.
Issue.
Like he's gonna elevate that issue. Now Andrew Thomas being back, and they've had some bad injury luck. I get that, but I wouldn't feel great about that.
Mm-hmm.
He does get caught staring, like all these young quarterbacks, staring down targets and defenders. Like he threw 8 picks in 2024. Some of them he drops back and he's staring it down. So Shedeur, he is really accurate. Another guy too, by the way. Through 4 seasons, he's fumbled 31 times. It's gotten better. It went from 12 to 7 to 5, back up to 7. He's got to protect the ball better. He's got to.
He just got to manage.
All these guys do.
He just got to manage how he operates in the pocket a little bit better. For as much as I love how he sees the field pre and post snap, for as much as I think he is a good decision maker and he makes a lot of good big time throws, I mean, how he manages the pocket it has to improve. We talked about the sack right there, but there are so many times where he is retreating way too far in the pocket when he could have potentially stepped up. Now, I understand playing behind a bad offensive line, that sort of goes into that mentality, but he's got a bad habit of drifting back too far in the pocket. And you mentioned like the sacks that he'll take, the fumbles that he has, like ball security issues, like basically what he is in the pocket in non-ideal situations. Just he must raise the floor of when he is in the pocket. He has to do that when defenses are closing in on him.
But there's no denying it. Like one thing he got a lot better on from that I criticized him over the summer because there wasn't really a sample size of it. I thought he threw the ball outside the numbers on those intermediate throws really well this year. 21 of 29, 4 touchdowns, no picks. And Shedeur's arm didn't magically get better or more talented. He threw with confidence and timing and just really let it rip in those areas. So that's a big right trajectory part of his game for me. It's pretty when this guy throws the ball. Mm-hmm. It really, really is. Mm-hmm. I think our problem with Shedeur, this is probably the larger combo or the largest combo, because I think we landed exactly the same on him. Shedeur is a weird prospect because he's Deion's kid, and with Deion, everything is, really amplified and overanalyzed and all that stuff. There's a world where Shedeur is just a solid quarterback prospect. Like he's a starter at the NFL level in a good situation. He could distribute the ball. He's accurate. He's pretty smart. Mm-hmm. But is Shedeur going to create like Jaden Daniels or how Cam Ward creates? Or is Shedeur as physically imposing as Josh Allen and these guys? Like you brought it up, like his ceiling is Joe Burrow. That'd be amazing. That's hard to play like that.
I don't think he has that ceiling. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So
that's the ceiling of his archetype is sort of
I think a lot of people just struggle with the fact that Shedeur doesn't have to be an elite quarterback prospect. But when you say that doesn't mean you don't think he's a good one, like a damn good one. Mm-hmm. He might just be in the middle of the pack NFL quarterback based on his situation. And it's hard for people to process that because he's Deion's kid and everything at Colorado has been flashy. And
I agree. Yeah.
So I think that's why it's a difficult conversation for people to unpack, because if you don't think he's an elite quarterback prospect, you're considered a hater. But if you think if you think Shedeur is just terrible, you're literally a hater. There's a floor there.
Yeah.
But he's honestly, to me, not a high variance prospect. He's kind of a boring prospect, honestly.
Yeah.
He's kind of boring, and that's okay.
I have always thought that he's pretty straightforward. Again, Bridgewater is who I continue to go back to, and I think he's Bridgewater in a lot of ways. And I think that's how I would just.
I think it's a good comp. I think it's a really good comp.
Obviously this is early quarterback ranking, so we'll see. I mean, we've got some things at the combine, things that we'll learn about these guys, as prospects and everything. But right now, I know people love grades and things like that. I got early grades of some of these guys. Cam Ward, certainly film grade. I gave him 2nd round grade. Shedeur Sanders is a late 2nd, early 3rd. And then Jalen Milroe, I have as a 3rd round grade just because of everything he brings to the table with a lot of the variances that I have there. So that's not to say that I don't think a quarterback is going until the 2nd round. We know that the quarterback tax exists for a reason. So we'll do a mock draft, over the next couple of weeks, whenever it is, and we'll probably talk about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders going in the top 5 because that's what teams need. But just to let you know, when you talk about like, oh, are there going to be any first-round grades? I don't have any first-round grades on any of these quarterbacks. The highest is a second-round grade, and then after that, it's a late second, early third with Shedeur, and then we're getting into Jalen, Milroe. Then there's a couple others that I have, like Beck, Howard, Riley Leonard. They're right around that like third-round range kind of a thing. And then a lot of these quarterbacks are fourth round, mid day 3, like fourth round, fifth round, sixth, seventh round, undrafted free agent type of quarterbacks from what I've seen so far. So just wanted to say that to everybody because I know you guys ask a lot of those questions. But speaking of questions, we would love to hear from you guys. We would love to hear from you guys and what you think of the quarterback class here that we talked about for 2 hours.
Oh my God.
Our families are wondering what's happening. I think my fiance's actually texted me 5 times and I haven't responded yet. So you guys,
it's eggnog time.
You guys, what'd you say?
It's eggnog time.
Wait, why is it eggnog time?
Because it's the holidays. You drink eggnog when you're off. What do you mean?
Eggnog stinks.
No.
Do you like eggnog?
No. Eggnog is phenomenal.
Brother, why didn't we just start with this? We could have saved 2 hours.
Dude, eggnog's phenomenal.
It's horrendous.
Expand your mind.
It's snot. It's cartoned snot.
I didn't have it for many years of my life.
Shout out to your family for protecting you.
I think it was like 2 Christmases ago. My dad just like put a glass in front of my face and was like, a little eggnog with a little rum. And
I was going to say, was it spiked? I don't think I've ever had spiked eggnog.
I mean, what the hell? You think I just openly drink eggnog like a glass of milk?
Eggnog.
Okay,
yes.
That is satanic. No, I drink it with rum. What do you mean? Oh my God.
We would love to hear your takes on eggnog and the former, even with the quarterbacks as well. Best way to do that, youtube.com/@NFL Stock Exchange. You can hit us up on Twitter and Instagram as well to get those takes off at Tampa Bay Trey, at Connor J. Rogers. Please let us know what you guys think of this quarterback class. We know you got takes on it. We would love to hear your rankings, even if they're early rankings. Talk to us about the quarterbacks that you're really intrigued by, who you think that we're too high on, we're too low on, or just give us your rankings overall. They start a lot of really great conversations in the comments. We get to read them. We get to go back and forth with a lot of you guys. And this is a fun way to do it. It's a fun time of year to be able to do that. Next on the list, we got running backs. Gonna keep it a buck with you fine people. I don't know if it's going to come at the end of this week. We're going to try to make it come at the end of this week. But with the holiday plans, some travel, everything like that, we obviously want to be able to devote full episodes to you guys, give you the in-depth prospect analysis that you come to this podcast for. So we don't want to cheat you there just to get an episode out. It might be something that goes into the early parts of next week, but it will be coming. We're sure. We promise you. So running backs will be next. And then some of you guys have asked about trench players. I think we'll probably shift over to offensive line or defensive line after that. Knock a couple of those out as we get a little bit closer to the declaration days and those all-star events. Connor, anything else before we get out of here?
A very, very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. Thank you so much, everybody, for another great year. I'm sure we'll talk to you before the new year, but we'll keep this one rolling. Enjoy your holiday traditions, even if they don't include eggnog.
I was going to say, whatever you guys do for the holidays, we hope it is a wonderful day, whether it's family, friends, football, or some sick shit like enjoying eggnog. We love you guys so much. This podcast is a blast to do because of you guys, so we appreciate you listening. For Connor Rogers, I'm Trevor Sikkema saying thank you so much for watching and listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We will see you next time. See you guys.